And it's always good to hear that music of your life. That means it's time for the start of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get things underway for this Wednesday afternoon with your host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Good afternoon, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. It's always a pleasant Wednesday whenever we get to be together on the radio here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And also welcome to those of you who are catching this online at WEJF.net. And then those who catch us later as a podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Alexa or Spotify or iHeartRadio. We're just glad you're here. And, you know, Helping Seniors is the organization that our president and founder Joe Steckler began following his retirement as a successful career naval officer. He commanded submarines, or whatever the correct term is, captain submarines, I guess is the correct term, early in his career. But his last command in the Navy, he was captain, and he was overseeing the the Navy's government retirement home there in Mississippi. And then when he and his wife retired, they came to the Space Coast, and Joe couldn't stay retired. So he gets Brevard Alzheimer's going and builds those Joe's Clubs. And then when he retires from that, he can't stay retired. So he starts Helping Seniors of Brevard. And that's now, here we are 13 years later. And our special guest today is somebody that has been with Joe for many steps of this, because Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist with Dr. Sheldon Furtado, PLLC, if I get all those letters correct, but often referred to as Solid Bite, right there on Sarna Road. It is really a very, very, very well respected practice that Dr. Sheldon's built up over the years. But Dr. Lee Sheldon, welcome to the show. And you've been with Joe like every step of the way, just about. And I was just saying, Dr. Sheldon, that you have really walked with Joe through so much of his work on behalf of seniors in this county. I mean, going back to Brevard Alzheimer's days, and now even here now for 13 years with the Helping Seniors group. So you've really been a big help to not only us, but especially to Joe, just as he was getting all this stuff off the ground anyway.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm only 32 years old. It's amazing what's occurred. Yes.
You've accomplished a lot for a very young guy. I always jokingly call you the either the father or grandfather, or I don't know, maybe you would prefer the uncle of dental implants, because I think you were like the leader here. Well, just whatever you prefer. But I mean, this is, as a periodontist, you have really kind of led the way, not only here along the Space Coast, but, you know, just in the conversations we've had along the way. You've had organizations that help other practices around the country learn how to run their medical practices and dental practices the right way. You and I have done TV shows, radio shows, where we've talked about how important, we've tracked all these studies, like the importance of dental health and how it really impacts the whole body. I remember we did a show, we were talking about where you were looking at a lot of the studies, and now you have actually, you and a group of other very prominent periodontists have also been publishing actively a lot later to get everybody to really understand where we are in this. So I'm really excited, to have you welcome back to the show, but back to my original point, you really have helped Joe all the way along the way in the work of, you know, both when he was building Joe's Clubs for Brevard Alzheimer's, but then also since day one from Helping Seniors.
Yeah, Joe and I have a long track record, mutually beneficial track record together, and certainly I admire all of the work that he's done. You know, you could retire and just retire, and Joe says, no, I'm retiring to something that's going to make a big difference to the community, and that's what he's done, and he's doing it twice now. So good for Joe.
You know, Dr. Sheldon, I was going to say, it was literally just the other, I think it was last Friday, actually. I picked up Joe and we went to the Center for Collaboration, which is the Space Coast Health Foundation, because this shows you, Joe is 89. He's going to be 90 in December. And Joe said, this is important, Kerry. We need to go to this. It's a nonprofit economic impact seminar. And what they're trying to do is arm all the nonprofits in the area with a recent study from Florida Nonprofit Organization to help us do our job better of communicating with the people that support our nonprofits and how to do that. And, you'll appreciate this, Dr. Sheldon. When Joe gets in there, it's like he's the rock star in the room. Everybody comes running up. Hey, Joe, how are you? Because they all appreciate the impact that he's been able to have in this community. It's tremendous.
Yeah, so good that he should get that kind of recognition. And age of 89, they just sit and get the recognition. No, not Joe. Joe is pushing the envelope again.
Yeah, I was literally talking with him, and he goes, he's really, as you know, we've been on this thing about the affordable housing for seniors. So Joe's about to launch a whole slew of articles because he says, listen, I got the Joe's Clubs built. He said, I really would like to use the time I have here and see if I can actually do something, get a model together for affordable housing for seniors. And I'm like, Joe, if there's anybody in the world that can pull that off, it's going to be you. So, Joe, there's not a day that Joe doesn't work, that doesn't wake up and start thinking about what we can do to make life better for seniors in our area. And that's been the spirit of helping seniors.
Not only that, I mean, it's true. And not only that, I mean, we've got events coming up. I mean, there's an event tonight. There's an event in 3 weeks. I mean, and there's Joe. I mean, there's you, yes. Kerry, you're the executive director, but there's Joe doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yes. And thank you, because you brought up the topic I was going to bring up, is that actually in just a very few hours, 4 p.m. this afternoon, I was going to invite you, if you're within the sound of this radio station and this voice and this date, because a lot of people do catch us on a podcast later. But today, being Wednesday, September the 13th at 4 p.m., we're all going to gather. It's called Connect at Kia. It's actually cute if you could see it in print, because it's got a K for Connect and a K for Kia. But anyway, we're going to gather for an after-hours business networking, business to business, for those people that are working with seniors in our community. And listen, if you're in business anywhere in the Space Coast, you're working with seniors, because it is our population base. 25% of us in the Space Coast are over the age of 65. Full 50% are over the age of 50. And ARP is going to call you a senior and send you a card to prove it as soon as you turn 50. So this is just a nice business to business networking event. Since last year, Dr. Sheldon, you were there with us last year, and I hope maybe you and Dr. Michelle Furtado and your son, Dr. Matt Sheldon, and maybe some of the folks from the office are going to be there to join us, because once again, you're helping make this possible. But we gather at Boniface Hires Kia, which is that beautiful new dealership that AJ Hires built right there on US 192, just east of I-95. We're going to be there 4 to 7. And it's just a great business-to-business networking after hours. So great folks like Zon Beachside and Hibiscus Court are providing food and beverage, and there's a lot of door prizes. And it's really just a chance for people who work with seniors to come out, meet each other, exchange business cards, maybe talk about business development. And for sure, what's our ulterior motive? We want you to get your tickets for the Helping Seniors car raffle, because that is coming up in literally less than a month. It's Saturday, October 7th. We're going to be at the American Muscle Car Museum for our 7th annual car raffle. And we just thought the Connect at Kia is a great chance to get everybody together and say, if you don't have tickets, you can get them there on site. We'll have our table set up and be selling those tickets for donation. And if you have your tickets, you may say, well, I want to bring some office friends, so let me get some tickets, invite them along. So, and actually, Dr. Sheldon, we're seeing that over and over. We're seeing people buy, actually, Joe set it up, and it's always been the same. There's never been any discounts on tickets or any, well, if you buy them this week, you get this many more tickets. Joe has always been serious about the integrity of this. One ticket is a $25 donation, 5 tickets for a $100 donation, which that by itself is already a great discounted deal. Because I tell people, you can't go to a pizza place and take 5 people to a movie for $100. Here, you're going to get your $100, and you're going to be able to take 5, total of 5, you plus 4 others, to the American Muscle Car Museum. You're going to be able to enjoy that night, Saturday, October 7th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Mark Pylok's astounding collection of cars. And if you just happen to be the ticket that we pull, you're going to get to choose your brand new car. Dr. Sheldon, it can't get much better than that.
No. I mean, the value, just the food value alone with the food that they serve there is fantastic. But the Muscle Car Museum is continually renewed. Every time you go back, you see something new, and not just something new, a lot of new things. So if you think, oh, I've already been there once, okay. If you go there again, you'll see that it's not the same place you went to last year or the year before.
You say, I was just thinking as you were saying that, I was telling somebody over the weekend, we had the opportunity to be out at a ridiculous number of car shows, and everybody is so excited. And not only that, we were at actually a couple of church locations too. But I mean, I think we must have done like 12 different events over the past weekend, and everybody is getting ready, so excited. I was telling Joe, I was telling Marty, I was telling Nancy, everybody on our team, I said, there seems to be a groundswell. There was 3,000 people there last year. And Mark told us we set the record now for the place for the number of cars parked there. It was 1,150. And all I can tell you is ticket sales are ahead of where they were last year. But I was talking with one of our directors. Her name is Ashley Caswell. She said, Kerry, every time you say 3,000 people show up, she goes, you make it sound like it's crowded. Dr. Sheldon, you've been in there when there's been 3,000 people there. It's not crowded. The place is that big.
You can't tell. In fact, when you just told me 3,000, I wouldn't have even thought 3,000. It's such a wide open space. So there's plenty of, even you would expect with 3,000 people would be lined up for food. No, they're not. That's how big the venue is and how many different places there are to participate in food and drink and conversation and seeing cars and taking advantage of the entertainment that's there. I mean, it's quite a show and quite a bargain for that show.
Yeah, and it was a long extraction, if you'll excuse the expression, from the starting point, which is that you mentioned if you've been there before, you need to come back because, Dr. Sheldon, they let us come in and shoot some promo stuff that we've been using out on our Facebook page and things like that. So we were in there a couple of weeks ago getting ready for this. And I was asking the guys who work for Mark Pylok, the owner of the museum, and I said, how many cars does Mark have now? They said, well, there's 435 on the inventory. And I said, when we were here last year, you told me it was 395. That means his collection has grown by 10% just since we had our last car raffle. So even if you were there last year, you got 40 new cars to see. If you haven't been there for a couple of years, I could only imagine you've probably only seen half of the collection, because I remember when we started with this, it was like 250 cars. That was it. That was it, 250 cars.
And it just is testimony to what you said before, Kerry, and that is how big the place is. I mean, he has room for the stuff. He has room to expand. It's a tremendous facility. I remember when it was being built and, we looked at it and said, what the heck is here behind this wall, behind Walmart? And of course, the facility is behind Walmart over right near my office on Sarno Roads. But it's west of Wickham and a huge facility. And it's a beautiful facility. And Mark donates this. He donates this to the community for this event and, of course, many other events within the community. And it's all charitable events. You can't just walk into the museum. You have to participate in the charitable event. Well, Helping Seniors of Brevard began Mark, and Mark has been kind enough to give us the opportunity to work with him. And It would be plenty if Mark just donated the cars. It would be, or said, "Come on to my museum." No, but he takes it a lot farther than that. He essentially creates the entire entertainment venue for us, and for all of our guests and all of our people who are buying tickets. And of course, that's the most important part. It's the most important part to us. It's the most important part to Mark. To support the many people in our community, the many seniors who need these services, and Mark donates the entire thing. So it becomes, as Kerry said, it's become a tradition in helping seniors in Brevard. But more importantly, it's provided needed services for our community, and what a great evening you'll have, and you'll be donating something, yes, but same amount of money or more for an equivalent or maybe less entertainment, and enjoy yourself and be able and know that all of your monies are going to.
Yeah, you said that so well because Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, whenever we're out in a location and she's talking to people about the tickets, she's always reminding people, said, we are 100% local to Brevard County. So when you support what we're trying to do with the work of helping seniors, your dollars are right here in this county, because every service that we try to offer where we're trying to get seniors connected to resources that are going to help them on their journey, it's 100% here. You're not calling, I don't know, Iowa and talking to somebody in a call center. You're talking to people right here in Melbourne, Florida, who are committed to doing everything possible to resolve situations that seniors and their families run into. So let me just real quickly, if it's okay with you, Dr. Sheldon, remind people how you get tickets. Number one, you can come out to Connect to Kia tomorrow. We'll have your tickets right there at Boniface Hires Kia. As a general rule, all of the Boniface Hires dealerships have the tickets. Why? Because AJ Hires and Joe Steckler are friends, goes back a long way. As Joe says, we've been auctioning off cars to support, or raffling off cars to support charity since the mid-90s, because that helped Joe build those Joe's Clubs. And now in our 7th year, it's helping us keep helping seniors going. And it literally is half our budget. So when you make your donation, you're getting a great deal, because you're going to have a great time. You might get a new car, but for sure, you're helping us keep our charity work alive. So you can get your tickets there. You can actually get them on site the night of, although it's much better to skip the lines, get them ahead of time. That way you can relax. We've got a new how you get in the house procedure that's going to make it very fast, very easy to access the museum. But you can call Nancy at 321-473-7770, and she can sell you tickets and get them taken care of safely, securely by phone. You can go to Helping Seniors Car Raffle, get them that way. Or, Dr. Sheldon, you have them at your office.
Come on down to our office. Sure, we've got tickets right at the front desk. By all means.
And it's just a great night, as you said. So listen, thank you for allowing us to kind of bend your ear if you're listening about this car raffle thing. It is so important. This is the fun part of what we get to do, but you really are supporting the serious work of helping seniors. We took 5,400 calls on that senior information helpline last year, and the call volume is increasing. It just means, and for two reasons. Seniors, there's just more seniors than ever before. Number one, just age-wise. But number two, so many people are moving to Florida and they don't know where to begin. So they find the Helping Seniors number and start there. But Dr. Sheldon, in addition to talking about helping seniors, we have a really interesting topic for today's radio show, and at least want to get started a little bit into that, because I thought that what a fantastic concept. We've done some fun things here recently. We had a couple of quiz shows and things like that, where it was kind of like you were the game show host and you were stumping the rest of us here in the radio audience. But I like this one because this is almost the reverse, right? Why didn't my dentist find that?
Yeah, it's It is the question. People are coming to me. Yes, I'm a specialist, and so people are coming to me because they have specialists, and that's nice. That's great. But then you get the question because I'm going to do a diagnosis, and that means I'm doing a very careful examination and looking at things that maybe you didn't know existed, and I'm going to be asking questions, and you'll say, well, why asking me that question? And then we go through everything, and I find this or that. I find periodontal disease. I find decay. I find a problem with the bite. And then the inevitable question comes, why didn't my dentist tell me that? And it's, when I was younger, I felt trapped by that question because it's an accusatory question. How come you found it and the other dentist did it? Okay, so either I'm right and the dentist is wrong, or the dentist is right and I'm wrong, something like that. And one variable in that entire question, and that is the personal responsibility of the patient who has the disease in the first place.
That's good.
And that's what I want to talk about today.
All right.
I don't want to go off in my soapbox. So you can ask me questions. You tell me, Kerry, how we cover this, because you've been the patient. You see it from the patient side. Of course, I've been a patient too, and I'm a patient right now. For my doctors, but you perspective and say, all right, Lee saw me and I blah 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 blah, whatever it was, so maybe you ought to ask the questions and I'll try to give you perspective.
Well, and we will, and I love to preface this by saying, like in our own family, a true life story is my wife had such a challenge trying to get out of mouth pain, and I remember one of the most frustrating things for her was going to a dentist right here in Brevard County, because we didn't know anyone. We certainly didn't know you guys at the time. And the dentist, after seeing her probably 5 or 6 times, says, well, what do you want me to do next? And Tammy's sitting in the chair going, I'm the patient. I have no idea what to ask for next. And so to be honest, when we finally had the opportunity to see you in your office, where you have really all these diagnostic tools and can really get into it. But it's really a question because it fits so well with that theme of what we're talking about. Why didn't my dentist find that? Here's somebody that's having chronic mouth pain to the point she's like, just take my teeth out, give me dentures or something, because this is terrible. And, what it was it needed to be diagnosed in a whole different way, I guess.
I think so. I'm going through that with a very, very close personal friend right now. And it's not a dental problem at all. It's a medical problem. And I'm helping her go through this to get to the answer. And the answer to me becomes one. There are 2 answers here. One is what I already referred to. When it comes to dental disease, the patient has a lot of responsibility, particularly tooth decay, but even periodontal disease. But let's say tooth decay, the patient has a lot of responsibility there because the patient can create decay, and we can only fix decay. We can't do anything else.
Yep, we're talking with Dr. Lee.
Am I hearing that?
We are. We're talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon with Solid Bite Dental. We'll be back with the second half of the show in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned.
And that music identifies the fact that we're ready to go with the second half of today's Helping Seniors of Brevard program. Let's reintroduce the host of the program and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here's Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Hey, John Harper, thank you so much. Good to be back on the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show. We're having a great conversation with Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist, and also with Dr. Sheldon and Furtado. Solid Bite. That's the practice right there, long-time practice right there on Sarno Road, just down the street from where we'll be also for the Helping Seniors car raffle at the American Muscle Car Museum. You guys are like almost neighbors there, Dr. Sheldon.
Yeah, it's nice to be right down the street, although I'll be driving over there. I will not be walking, so...
Right. Well, so we had gotten into this conversation. You know, it was a really interesting topic. Why didn't my dentist find that? And I was thinking about, do you might hear that, like I was telling just before we got to the break, of our own experience where we kind of got to your office and you were able to give my wife some information that, you know, was not only helpful, but really resolved her problem that she was having. And I guess she would be the perfect candidate to go, why didn't my former dentist find that? I mean, you've done this for years. You write manuals to help other practices do their jobs correctly. You're on the forefront of a lot of research on this, but why does this happen? I mean, I guess it's obviously commonplace enough. I would have thought Tammy's case was unique, but just for you to say, hey, let's do a show on this, it must happen frequently enough.
It does happen frequently enough. And so the one end that we talked about before the break was the patient's end. Okay. If you're going to eat sugar, your teeth are going to rot. That's just the way it is. If you're taking medications, you're acid, and that means your saliva is acidic 24/7. If you have acid saliva, that's going to decay the teeth. That's what's going to happen. And there are over 500 medications that cause dry mouth. And when your mouth is dry, your mouth is acidic. It would seem that if your mouth is dry, it's just dry. No, it's acid. And you've got acid hitting you 24/7. So then you have acid plus sugar, and that's just devastating for the teeth. So that's the patient's responsibility with regard to the patient in that direction. There's a very simple test for acid. You can go on Amazon, go to the pharmacy, and you can pick up pH. pH is something that's a test strip. A pH test strip, and you put that in your mouth, and you can see or you can spit on it, and you can see what the acid level is of your saliva. And there's a scale. It's a color scale, and the color scale matches the different colors match the different levels of acid you could have in your mouth. You can measure it yourself. If your pH is below 7, then you have an acidic mouth. Now, if it's 5.5 or below, that's pretty devastating. There's very little that you can do to repair teeth permanently in an acidic environment of 5.5. And so you have to do some things in order to be able to neutralize your saliva. We often do baking soda rinses in order to be able to establish that. So if we're looking from your perspective, you patient, saying go and get some pH, those are the letters P and H, test strips, and test and see where you are. It's one of the routine tests that we'll do in our office. But you don't have to come to our office to do that. If you want to find out why and see if you're prone to decay because of acid in your mouth, then you can do that yourself. But once you do have that, then sugar is your enemy. It's your enemy whether we're talking about overall health, and I'm talking about every chronic degenerative disease comes from inflammation, and sugar causes it. Certainly that's something that we have to be better at, and I'm talking about we as patients and we as consumers, we have to be very careful as to what we're putting in our mouths, because yes, it's going to rot the teeth first, but that's only an indicator of what's going on in the rest of the body that we can see very easily as dentists, but your doctors can't see your internal organs. So if you've got something going on in your mouth, chances are you've got something going on someplace else, and we've done several shows about that. So that's the one side of it, Kerry. Should we go any farther? Because the other side is why do I discover something that other people don't? But do you want to handle the consumer side a little bit more, or the prevention side?
Well, where I was going to ask you about next was, so I guess the question is, how good are dental professions at preventing disease? I mean, I guess it's like, probably I always remember historically getting lectured, going to the dentist's office about, in the olden days, it was brushing better or you'd get cavities. But now I think what I keep learning as we do the radio shows and you explain the reasoning why, you really, it seems like very, very focused on let's keep gums healthy, because that's kind of like the root of everything else that's going on.
Yeah, it's true, because gum disease, if you have gum disease, then if you have gum disease, and the opportunities for you to have problems in other parts of your mouth or in parts of your body are pretty high. At least there's an association, and there may be a causation or a partial causation between gum disease and other problems of the body, like heart disease, like strokes, like Alzheimer's, that type of thing. So certainly dental health is one of those components that you need in order to be able to make yourself healthy. And you would combine that with good nutrition and good habits, and you have a very good opportunity for the body to heal itself. So yeah, that's part of it. I think the other part of it, as we look at it, Kerry, is that there's a reason that specialists exist, and whether it's medical specialists or dental specialists or any trained. I mean, we go to school longer. We tend to perhaps buy more diagnostic equipment in order to be able to handle the problems that can't be handled by the general dentist. And that says nothing wrong, nothing bad about the general dentist. What it does say is that there's a need for specialists, because what's uncommon to the general dentist is common for the specialist. We see complicated cases, and therefore your expectation would be a little bit higher from us, at least not from some of the treatments, but at least from the diagnostic phase, that we have the equipment and we have the wherewithal, and we just see complicated cases every single day. In fact, almost all of our patients are complicated patients. So you build up that level of expertise, and you can figure out what's going on, and you can figure out what works, and be able to help the patient.
Well, and we had written kind of like a little list of questions of things that we wanted to kind of nose around as we do this topic. But so it's maybe a little out of order, but it seems to come into play with just what we were just talking about. The question was actually, why are there so many different second opinions? You always hear that just in general, if your doctor tells you something you're supposed to have done, you should go get a second opinion. But when we talk about this topic of why didn't my dentist find that, does it happen that you get different second opinions depending on who you talk to?
Well, yeah, I can track that with my wife. I hope she doesn't mind my talking about it. I won't talk in specifics, but certainly I can talk about it with my wife. And I think the show before that we went to a specialist for a particular problem. I'm not going to go into what it is. And the specialist said there's nothing that you can do besides fairly major surgery. And so we went to the surgeon. The surgeon confirmed that major surgery is necessary. And we were ready to schedule it. And I said, wait a minute. I know something about this too. I know how to read. And just because I have a DR in front of my name doesn't mean that you, the listener, can't read the same ways. I went on the internet and I looked up the diagnosis, and I looked up the varying possible treatments for it. Actually, I was looking for the varying possible risks of the surgery and whether there might be something else that can be done. At least I saw some indication that the risk was not that great, that we could wait a little bit. And so I went back to the physician, and the original physician who had recommended the surgeon. And I talked to the physician and said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be another way of doing this to go and do. There's got to be. And the physician said, no, there's only one way. And when we went back and forth, and I think what you realize is when any physician encounters me, I don't give up very easily. And every physician who knows me in Brevard County knows that. So I went through it, and it took It was 3 times. It's that magic 3 times. And then finally the physician says, well, yeah, there is somebody at Mayo Clinic who does this non-surgically. And so then you go and non-surgically, and everything's fine, and everything was good. So why is that? I think what is commonplace, maybe in this area, or at least a commonplace thing, it's like, all right, you have this, the automatic thing that I learned in medical school 20 years ago, you do that. And that becomes the trend. That becomes what we do. You know, you have eye diagnosis A, you get treatment A. And that's just the way it is. And when new treatments come about, it takes a while and for people to think about it and then see it and then see results from it before something is finally part of somebody's routine. So your automatic from A to A becomes A to B, but it takes a while to get there. So yeah, the consumer does have to look. I mean, if the consumer is looking about anything, if you're going to look about what how you're going to plan your vacation, I know that may be a little bit easier. You can look and you can see what the alternatives are. You can look at them, and then you can even find qualified people to be able to talk to. When it comes to a dental diagnosis, I think is very similar. I think there are certain standard things that every dentist knows, and then there are certain standard things that every dentist thinks he might know or she might know, but when it becomes confusing or I'm not sure what to do, that's why the specialist is there. That's why the periodontist is there, the endodontist is there, the oral surgeon is there, the prosthodontist, that's the one who replaces teeth, is there because all of us have we've trained first as general dentists, but then we spent a lot of time going back to school and doing more work and then meeting within specialty organizations in order to be able to find better answers, more specialized answers, and often much more successful answers, because that's what we do and that's what we do for a living.
Well, in kind of taking that as kind of a cue then, when it comes to like how we're thinking about this, I guess from a consumer standpoint then, how much should me the consumer be concerned about the care of my mouth versus what we would expect our dental professional to guide us on? I mean, I guess obviously it takes both parts to make it work, but do you have any thoughts on how you balance that out from the consumer side?
A little bit, Kerry. So forgive me. Would you mind repeating the question for me, please?
Yeah. So basically it's this: how much can you rely on your health care provider when it comes to the care of your mouth versus, or not versus, but relative to what you should do as the patient yourself?
I think for a lot of basic things, you can rely on the general physician, the internist, the general dentist to do a lot in order to be able to keep things going. There's a lot that can be done within the general dentistry office. I think it's when things are failing, or let's assume I'm a periodontist, and so we're looking at periodontal pockets, and periodontal pockets are reflective of bone support loss for the teeth, that if you're seeing a continual problem with periodontal pockets and they're not getting better, then sometimes you may hear the words, there's nothing more that can be done, when the real words should be, there's nothing more. When again, and you as a consumer have to recognize that a person, the doctor, may have said what he or she knows and feels that's the only thing that there is, but that may only be a deficiency on that doctor's part. That doctor, in fact, doesn't know the things that can be done, and then you, as a patient, should refer yourself to a specialist in order to be able to look at that and at least confirm that in fact what is going on is true, or very often, particularly when it comes to periodontal, tell you how many people I've seen over the years that have been told you need to lose all your teeth. And this is the twilight of my career, but we saved the teeth and they've been in place for over 30 years. So if you're getting that kind of a sentence, we're saying that's the end. There's nothing more that can be done. Now, change those words in your own mind. I'm talking about consumer. There's nothing more I can do, and then go see a specialist and confirm that in fact that's correct.
Yeah. There was one other question that was kind of tied into the things we were talking about for today. And we've talked about moderation on our shows, just for a long time. I mean, we've been, first of all, you were doing this with Joe ever before I did. And then we've done so many shows since on so many different, very important areas for people to know about. But I guess, what are your thoughts about moderation?
Yeah, unfortunately, moderation, the definition of moderation has changed, hasn't it? What was moderation for you and me, Kerry, 20 or 30 years ago is nice. So I'll use I won't give the name of the place, but you'll know what I'm talking about. The fast food hamburger joint, okay? Moderation for me was the first one opened up in West Springfield, Massachusetts, which was about 14 miles away from my house. And it was a treat. My parents would take me out to that place and I'd have the thing, and maybe I'd do that once or twice or 3 times a year. When that kind of fast food moderation becomes, I'll only do it 3 times this year, right, and the definition of moderation has changed. And so when we look at all of the pre-processed and packaged foods, never mind the fast food restaurants, but all of the things where the machine is eating the good stuff and what you've got is what's left in the bag, we got to be really careful with that. Snacking is not ordinary, and snacking doesn't fulfill anything nutritionally. And so if you're having snacks already, you're beyond moderation. Now, if you're having snacks that are, hey, that's great. But if you're having things, and you know what it's like, when you go to go to fill up gas, and you go and every gas station of whatever kind has junk food as soon as you go in there, we're consuming an awful lot of it. And what's true, that's true. If we're eating a lot of seed oils, something seed like cottonseed, grapeseed, that type of thing, that's an inflammatory oil. And if you take a look and see what's within most of these packaged foods have seed oils. And that's just an example of a number of ingredients that are in there that are not going to do anything to satisfy you nutritionally and are likely to damage you from a health perspective. So when we're talking about moderation, the moderation has to be, hey, our moderation is what fresh fruits, fresh vegetables first. Okay, and and so your moderation means do it a little bit. I mean, as a treat, okay? Every couple of weeks, whatever that is. But that's what moderation was when you and I grew up. And that's what moderation needs to be again, because we have a lot of problems within our healthcare system, and that healthcare system is overloaded right now. It's overloaded because of what we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah, that's so important, to actually understand that, and just how the goalposts have shifted, as you said, on moderation. It's not, it's not what it used to be. Well, listen, we've been talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon, who is the founder of the very, very important practice called Dr. Sheldon and Furtado, and right there on Sarno Road. You guys are really experts in everything complex. You're leaders in cosmetic dentistry. You're leaders in everything to do with dental implants and things like that. And yet you're also very, very in depth about the things of keeping gums and keeping natural teeth in place. And so as we've been talking through this, Dr. Sheldon, your article that we publish in the Helping Seniors newsletter each month. So if you get your September edition of Senior Scene magazine, you look there in the center, you're going to find an article there that goes a little bit more into this, what we've been talking about on the radio show today, called Why Didn't My Dentist Find That? So you just pick up your free copy of Senior Scene. It's available at 500 copies around the county. If you can't find one close to you, you can get one online. You can either go to seniorscenemag.com, or always you can read the Helping Seniors newsletter at helpingseniors.brevard.org, and you're going to be able to find this radio show as a podcast there later. Real quick though, before we get to closing the show, Dr. Sheldon, you have a great thing that helps us as a charity, but also helps people get some really good answers so they don't have to ask the question, why didn't my dentist find that? Can you talk a minute for the program, the very unique program, Solid Bite Gives Back, that could be a great way for you to get some answers for what's going on in your mouth and help our charity at the same time? It's win-win-win all the way around.
The program that, in fact, I just talked about it with our staff this morning. And what Solid Bite Gives Back essentially is this: you donate $50 or more to Helping Seniors of Brevard, and you come into our office. So you come into our office with a check for $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard. You'll get the complete examination. That's a full mouth series of X-rays, if they're necessary, a CT scan, and everybody these days gets the CT scan because I can find some silent abscesses really, really well with the CT scan. And the full examination discussion with me about at least what I think your future is going to be, what may need to be done, what doesn't have to be done, what could be done. I'm really happy when a patient comes to me. You know, you didn't pressure me, you didn't do anything. You only informed me as to what could be done, and that's our job. And you do that for $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard, and this great organization benefits, and we hope you benefit too.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to advantage, let's give that contact information one more time.
Yeah, give us a call at 321-259-8000. 321-259-8000. Just say you heard me on the radio and you want the Helping Seniors of Brevard special, and we'll get you all set up.
It's great, and I love it because we've done whole shows where we've talked about the fact that you get the right, you give the doctor the right information, they have a full and complete picture to work with, and then they know how to help you definitively resolve whatever that issue is that you're trying to get through. And I think that's why we've done a whole show where you talked about the importance from you as the medical professional really having that data and that information to really make those great, like you were just saying about the hidden abscesses, right? Because most of us, we wouldn't know we were having a problem until like, hey, doc, it hurts. And now you're able to actually see where things could be a problem if you're not able to intervene or do some things like that too.
Yeah, it's true, and that gives us the opportunity of deciding. You know, so I had a patient yesterday. I said it's going to cost a lot of money in order to save this tooth. It's not that critical to you. I think it would be better for you to save your resources there and invest your resources in another part of your mouth in order to be able to make sure that your budget is spent correctly. And so there are some judgment calls here. Not everybody has to get everything done, and there are ways in which things can be timed and timed correctly, so it becomes more affordable to you, and you can build you can build your new mouth and do that sequentially rather than doing it all at one time.
So important. So thank you, Dr. Lee Sheldon with Dr. Sheldon and Furtado, Solid Bite Dental. And, I'm going to make one more pitch to say, if you want to helping seniors, why not pop by Dr. Sheldon's office and pick up your Helping Seniors car raffle tickets there, because that's the dates that I want you to also be keeping on your calendar, right? Saturday, October 7th, is going to be our 7th annual Helping Seniors grand drawing, and you have to have a ticket to be in it to win it. So what a great idea to pop by, ask your questions, and maybe ask them about that plan, and you might help yourself, but you're going to help Helping Seniors. and you might go home in a new car through all of those different things all combined together. And then don't forget, this afternoon we'll be looking for you at Boniface Hires Kia, where we're going to be there with the Helping Seniors Connected Kia. So if you're in business and you're working with seniors, or in this county you probably are, make sure you come out and see us. It's free, it's fun, 4 to 7 this evening. Boniface Hires Kia. On behalf of Joe Steckler, our Helping Seniors family, we'll see you there soon.